This is the meeting for the Board of Psychology. It is March 23rd, 2026. And we will have Christopher Fernandez go through reading about the instructions.
We'll play a brief video first.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the Raise Hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras. Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
Internet access. To view the meeting and provide live oral testimony, please use the link at the top of the agenda. You will be asked to enter your name. The board requests that you enter your full name, but you may use a pseudonym or other identifier if you wish to remain anonymous. You will also be asked for an email address. You may fill in this field with any entry in an email format. Your microphone will be automatically muted. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen to indicate that you wish to testify about the agenda item. The chairperson will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chairperson, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you've finished speaking. Phone access. If you cannot get internet access, you may get audio-only access by calling the number listed at the top of the agenda. Upon dialing the number, you will be prompted to enter the meeting ID, which is also listed at the top of the agenda. After entering the meeting ID, you will be asked to either enter your panelist number or wait to be admitted into the meeting. Since you will not have a panelist number, please wait until you are admitted into the meeting. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate you want to testify by entering star, then 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering star and then 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the chairperson, you may unmute yourself by pressing star and then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter star and then 6 again to mute yourself. For both internet and phone access, when testifying, you will be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 5 minutes of testimony per agenda item. If connection to the meeting is lost for more than 30 minutes, the meeting will be continued on a specific date and time. This information can be found on the board's website. Instructions to attend the State of Hawaii virtual board meetings may also be found online.
Thank you. I'm Dr. June Ching, Chairperson of the Board of Psychology. At this point, I would like to call the meeting to order and for every board member. For every board member to please let me know that they're present. And if you are virtually present for this meeting, to let us also know that there is no one else in the room with you and you are alone. Okay. Dr. Sean Scanlon,
Present.
Dr. Stephen Taketa,
Present, and I am alone.
Dr. Sherry Takushi Isara,
Present, and I'm alone.
we will now call the meeting to order with a quorum of the Board of Psychology present. First on the agenda is the review and approval of board meeting minutes.
Testimony.
Is there any testimony?
Good morning, Chair. There is no public testimony at this time.
I can go into the agenda item.
Agenda item for the review and approval of board meeting minutes. First is October 3rd, 2025 executive session minutes. Are there any comments or any corrections to the minutes?
For my name again, I'm sorry, my degree for the 10/3/2025 minutes needs to be changed to PSYD.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry, it's a little
Okay,
soft here.
sorry, for the 10/3/2025, my
Yes.
degree needs to be changed again. Sorry, it's
Okay,
Oh.
sorry.
Okay, so it's ID.
PSYD, yes.
Okay,
PSYD. Thank you.
thank you for that correction. Are there any other corrections or comments to the meeting minutes?
You can just ask if anybody has any questions or concerns for the February 6th as well, and then do both in a vote, one vote.
Moving on to the next meeting minutes, February 6th, 2026. Do we have any corrections or comments to those meeting minutes?
Just the.
Okay,
That's
Oh,
okay.
wait.
I think for Sherry's,
Yeah, I do, sorry. For that, for this is the 2/6/26, right?
yes,
My name is also spelled incorrectly, and then again, the degree. So my first name has an E at the end.
okay.
I also had a question with regard to the seconding of the, I think for the executive session minutes for March 7th and then also for April 4th, 2025. It said that I second those two. And
Yes,
I'm almost positive I did not, just because I didn't attend those two meetings. I wasn't a part of those two meetings.
Sorry, which page was that on?
okay, so we are looking at page 1, number 2, March 7th, 2025 executive session meeting minutes, and then the next page in which Dr. Takushi said that she was listed as seconding the minutes, but she was not present.
So for the okay, so for the, we are speaking about the executive session, sorry, February 6th, 2026.
Oh, February 20, not March 7th, you're saying
No,
February.
no. It was for February, we're approving the minutes for February 6th, 2026, right?
Yeah.
And then the meeting minutes for March 7th executive session and then April 4th executive session. So bottom of page 1, top of page 2. It indicated that I second the approval of both minutes, but I know that I didn't because I was not present at either of those.
You were
during
not
either
present.
of those meetings.
Yeah,
I think what you mean, she wasn't present for those meetings, the
So I
April and
wouldn't-
March.
Oh.
yeah,
So she
so
could
I
not
wouldn't
have been seconding.
Yes, yes.
If you,
Possible that possible that she seconded it, the motion, but but I mean, if she's saying that she didn't, she wouldn't have because she wasn't at those meetings. I think that's what she's.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Maybe that said, it's possible that, because you can technically vote to approve even if you haven't attended the meeting, as long as you're comfortable doing that. So. But if you want to change, if it's inaccurate, then.
Okay, well, I just wasn't sure because I'm almost positive I didn't just because I wouldn't if I wasn't present at the actual meeting. So it's fine.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know if you have a recording of it or.
yeah, I can double check and then, I mean, you could defer the review of these applications till I get that clarified.
For the minutes. you mean?
For the minutes, you mean?
For the minutes.
Yeah, just to defer the review of the minutes at this meeting because I need to find out who made that second. According to what I was reviewing, it was,
Okay,
but until I can get that clarified, which I can't in the moment. Maybe you just defer the review and approval of the meeting minutes for February.
could we approve the minutes for the October 3rd one, which?
Yes.
but-
Yes,
but
yes.
Not for the March 7th and the April
I
4th.
think what he's talking about is I guess, deferred decision making on the February 6th minutes. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying? So that you can check to see and then bring it back at the next meeting.
Right.
Yeah. Given the.
Approve them until you get that clarified, yeah. So just, I guess, focus on A and approving, and then we'll defer February for review in April.
So we are going to defer the meeting minutes approval.
My recommendation is, since I can't confirm who made that second vote in the meeting minutes for February 6th, to defer review at this time of February 6th. And you can do the vote for October 3rd. And then we can move on to number 3, agenda item. Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to defer approval of the February 6th minutes, and what was the other one?
And then just that you guys can do a vote though on the October 3rd, 2025. Yeah.
So do we need to vote on that, the deferral?
No, you can.
Okay, so we can defer those, and can we now, if there are any, no other corrections or comments, we will. Can we move to accept October 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes?
I've edited there as.
I can second that one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? So I cannot.
I just made,
Sherry.
Okay, okay.
and Sherry, you're seconding?
Yes, correct.
You'll have to do a roll call vote. So you'll have to ask each member,
Okay,
unless you could ask
because they're not.
if there's any objections or abstentions.
Okay, are there any objections or abstentions? Hearing none, then we have approved the meeting minutes for October 3rd. Figure out where we are.
Okay, I think are we doing the executive session minutes for 2/6/26?
I think we're just gonna defer that until next in April
Okay,
meeting.
executive session as well.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is legislative session. I need to ask for comments. Are there any comments on the agenda items for for legislative session?
I do not have any public testimony at this time, Chair.
Maybe when we get to a specific bill. Yeah, you can pass it to me and I can go through each bill and let the status know. Yeah.
I will pass this on to Christopher Fernandez, our EO, to review each of the legislative session bills.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so the agenda was left intact from the last meeting just because we wanted to make sure that we cleared up the statuses for each one of the bills from the February meeting. So just so you know, the interjurisdictional compact, so that would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. These bills basically have all been deferred, or they were never brought to committee for hearing. So the bills that were deferred, I believe it was SB 2080.
SB 2080.
Yes, and then I think this House side, I think it was HB 1704. So these were the chosen vehicles. HB 1704 was recommended for passage by the Health Committee at the beginning of the session. It went to CPC. In that hearing, CPC heard the testimony of everybody involved. They did note the Board of Psychology's testimony as, well, problematic, so they deferred the bill. SB 2080 was heard by the Health and Human Services Committee and the CPC committee, or sorry, CPN committee on the Senate side, which meant that the bill did cross over. So after crossover and last week, it was heard by the Health Committee on the House side, at which time it also, understanding that CPC had deferred the bill on the House side, just went and deferred the bill at that hearing. So SB 2080 is dead. Moving on to prescriptive authority, SB 847. HB 2169 and SB 708. These were the bills for prescriptive authority this legislative session. At this time, SB 847 is still alive. We went through hearing last week after crossover in the Health Committee, who recommended for passage with some amendments. They did take the board's suggestion in order for it to be able to promulgate rules. It made the effective date for the pilot project July 1st, 2028. This would allow 2 years for the board to promulgate the rules intended to guide the licensing and regulatory aspect of this pilot project. So now I believe it moves on to CPC, I believe. Sorry, let me check real quick.
Excuse me. I do have public testimony at this time.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It will be going to CPC. Yeah, sorry. Sure, there is somebody with their hand raised.
I think that we have someone that wishes to give public testimony in regards to the prescriptive authority bills.
Hi, can we get Judy Steinman brought into the meeting to testify, please?
Just,
Yes,
could you unmute your mic?
I believe that I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Do you want me to turn on my video or does that matter?
It's up to you.
Okay. Oh, I can't start it. That's okay. My name is Judy Steinman. I have been involved with the prescriptive authority movement in Hawaii for 16 years. I used to be a program coordinator when the College of Pharmacy, the Daniel K. Inouye College of Pharmacy, had the MSCP program. That's the Clinical Psychopharmacology program. I ran that program for 8 years and then became a program director for the Alliant University MSCP program. So I've been very engaged in the training and education. I just wanted to offer my support for all of you in terms of the decisions that you are having to make regarding prescriptive authority. And I am the chair of the RXP committee for HPA. I have been for a few years now. So I just wanted to offer my support. I'm a past president of Division 55, which is the division under APA that supports prescriptive authority. I'm also the chair of the LASAC group, which is the Legislative and Social Action Committee, where we have RXP efforts going on around the country. Right now, we have 4 states, including Hawaii, that are engaged. I wanted to ask you to please reconsider that 2028 date. I do have resources that can help you in the decision-making process. In the past, when we've had bills that have come up in the Health Committee, in the Senate, we've asked for a year time, which I understand completely. 2 years is just going to have an impact on our ability to pass this bill. The bill version that Senator Keahokalole approved to go across is actually the bill that we believe is most likely to pass. And so we just wanted to ask if there is any way for you to reconsider that. We would greatly appreciate it. I do have some materials that I would love to share with you. I don't think I have the ability to share it in the chat, but we have resources that we've created that compare all of the states on things like, well, all the aspects of licensing that you have to consider. Rather than reinventing the wheel, we thought that it would be useful to you to be able to see, the big picture of what is available, what other states have had success with and things like that. I just wanted to, let me just see, I want to make sure I've covered all my notes. I do believe since 2012, our Governor Josh Green, who was then in the House, I believe, introduced a pilot RXP bill. And I believe that to this day, that if we're going to get an RXP bill signed, it is going to be a pilot study. I feel that this year, all of the elements that involve success have been with us. The blows that we took from the amendments in the most recent hearing, I think we can consider as, their side of the coin. I do believe that there are aspects of RXP, such as the fact that we reduce the rate of suicide by 5 to 7%, that we prescribe fewer multiple drugs, that we have fewer adverse reactions to medications than other disciplines that prescribe. I think that there are so many reasons why we should be able to move a bill forward. And I hope that I appreciate your support and your support for many years. If you have any questions, I am here. And if there is a way for me to send you this PDF that we have that goes through all of the steps of identifying what other states have done, I'd be happy to share that with you all. But please consider me a resource. Mahalo.
Thank you. Is there a way
Yeah.
that you can share it? Can you let me know?
Dr. Steinman, you can send that to the board's email, psychology@dcca.hawaii.gov. And if you need that, again, you can go to the board's website and there's contact info there. I see Dr. Lipton with his hand raised. You want to recognize Dr. Lipton?
Yes. Dr. Alex Lichten, I see that your hand is raised. And would you like to provide testimony?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just lost the picture. Okay. Trying to put my video on so you can see me. They disabled my video. You want me to just talk without the video?
Can we enable his video if he wants to? Okay, it's enabled now, Dr. Lichten.
Trying to.
There we go.
Okay.
Oh, there you can see me. Okay.
Yep,
I just
yes.
want thank you for your support, and I just want to add to what Judy said. This bill is alive, but just barely. It's basically on life support, and I certainly respect, looking at it from your point of view, you'd like to delay the start date. There's a lot of things that we would like to improve the bill. We're not happy with the amendments, but we're looking at what's possible to pass. And we talked to Senator Kehokulole earlier, and his intention was to pass the bill. He moved up the start date to very early, July of this year, which is not I don't think it would be ready to go by then. But what he wanted was a clean bill, meaning that he wanted the House to agree to the version that passed out of the Senate so that it would not go to conference committee. And he indicated that he didn't really want any changes to what passed out of the Senate, because if there were any amendments in the House, there's a very good chance it would die in conference committee. Now, as you may know, a lot of amendments were adopted, not only the one that you proposed, but all kinds of things that we're unhappy with, limiting the formulary, limiting the to ages 18 to 65, adding that we have to be under the supervision of a psychiatrist. Can't just be a medical doctor or PCP, got to be a psychiatrist. So there's a lot of amendments which are likely, we think, make it very, very hard for this bill to pass. So, we haven't decided exactly what we're going to do in the next hearing yet, but my feeling is we continue to support the version that passed out of the Senate, which was a bitter pill for us to swallow, all the compromises. The original bill was a compromise. It was just the FQHCs across the state. That was reduced by Senator Kehokulole, not just to Kauai, but to just one FQHC on Kauai. Nevertheless, we reluctantly went along with it because we thought, well, at least that would pass. Now it's been amended so much that I don't know that it can pass. So we continue just to support the version that passed out of the Senate, thinking, we at least have a bill. And also that we could go back even as early as next year. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed. I don't know that the bill that passed out of the Senate is very workable at all, but at least it sets a precedent for prescription privileges where it's easier to build on something. Once you plant roots, a tree can grow and the tree can be trimmed and, made healthy so it'll work. So that's kind of where I just wanted to add to what Judy said. That's our thinking at this time.
Thank you for your testimony. And the board will take all of what both of you said in consideration.
So if you guys want to talk about the bill now, you can.
What the bill now?
Yeah, SB 2080. I'm sorry, not 2080, SB 847. So if you guys have anything to discuss, members.
Would the members of the board like to add to the discussion in regards to the prescriptive authority bill? I think especially SB 847. I think my main question was, changing the date from, to the 2028. And if you had some comments about that. Because it sounds like the request of, the two that just testified were in favor of keeping it at 2027.
Yeah. So, speaking with the board's legislative liaison, the way the bill, was being interpreted was that in order for us to start taking in participants for the pilot project, those who have prescriptive authority who would initiate the data gathering, required the promulgation of rules. And that typically in the PVL takes about 2 years. And unfortunately, there is no individual one person who manages rule revisions for our division. It's up to the executive officers and whatever support staff they have, which is right now not anyone. So the concern would have been that if it were limited to 1 year and the rules weren't completed, there would be no pilot project of 3 years. It would be less than that. Because no one would be able to start doing that until we had those rules taken care of. A suggestion would be that the rules provision comes out. But what goes in its place for guidance, would still be something the board would have to discuss. So if it weren't rule, then typically it would be like statutory, right? So something built into the bill itself that provides the instructions of how somebody's registered, how somebody, what the qualifications are that they need to provide, and the duration of their, their regulation, those things. So instead of putting it into a rules process, it would just go right into the bill itself. But the major concern with speaking with the legislative liaison was that the pilot project itself that is set for 3 years. So if we don't finish rules, and so there's no way rules would be completed by effective date of July 1st, 2026. There's just no way. So that would have meant we would have been eating into the 3 years of the pilot project, as far as the interpretation at the time. So that was what the request was for the 2 years. And that was a response to the way it was changed in crossover.
How specific are these rules? I mean, how unique are they to here and this bill? Can we just take from one of the other 7 states?
Well, that's one thing you'd have to check is if that process from that other state matches our statutes and rules that as they stand right now, if they can actually work within our laws. That would be the first step to check. And then the next step would be just that it doesn't have any unintended effects. I don't know. But well, I was looking at, every year, as you know, the bills or prescriptive authority have all of this information built in, but it places it in 465, right? And so all of that is out. So there's no guidance in the bill. So I think that's what Senator Ke'ohole was addressing, was that there needs to be guidance. All that language from the old previous bills can probably get massaged into this by changing it out of 465 and whatnot. To what degree, it just depends on what the purpose and the needs of the pilot project are, right? So I don't know how much you could simplify. I don't know anything like that. And I think that's why he decided that rule promulgation would probably be the easiest way to keep the bill alive and moving forward.
It sounds like there's some motivation to have that written and get it done. So I'm just wondering how we can use previous things to facilitate that as much as possible without, overburdening, but
Do you,
But then starting from scratch is.
does HPA have any of that, like modified language possibly?
Really good.
Maybe Dr. Steinman had mentioned something earlier.
Yes, and I was very involved in the language defining the requirements. We had 800 hours of clinical work that would require 100 hours working with people from low income and homeless or houseless situations, that we would have 80 hours of physical assessment requirements, and that we would also include pregnant women and geriatrics and pediatrics, which I know, at least on Kauai, is one of the biggest issues with the peds. So I have all that language. I have all the modifications of the bills over the years. So I'd be happy to share that with you. But the other resource that I have are the people who were involved in the rulemaking in every state. And so in addition to this document that kind of summarizes what each state has, we have availability to the people who were on the board, as well as the people who actually were involved in the rulemaking. So I'd be happy to, arrange something if that would be of help to you. But we do have it written out and extensively, so I can send that to you as well. I think the two other RXP bills that were on your agenda today, they're dead, but at least one of them includes all the specific training and everything that we've recommended in the past.
Right, and I think that, obviously that. Let me ask a question if you don't mind. The language that's in, say, one of these other bills, SB 2225, that refers to like language that would be put into 465. It's basically all these requirements for obtaining prescriptive authority. You guys identified what is essential for the pilot project that would need to be put in. If you guys could actually provide us an outline and not just the resources, because that makes it a lot easier for us. Especially for me to pass on to the legislative liaison, who can then review that and make sure that any testimony coming from the board is supportive of its own position. And so far, I think the board, you support the intent. So
Yes, we do.
So we just need the easier points to mark down, because really we're not going to put, like this goes into 465, this goes into, we need it to like say what needs to be done by a participant. So, because that's the only way really to get around that rulemaking, is to have it established in that bill itself.
So I think that if we add anything into the bill itself, it's likely to die in conference committee, but I will get that information to you and lay it out for you, and we'll figure out where it should go. If that's what you're asking for, happy to do that.
I mean, that is the issue, really.
We have all of that.
That is the kind of issue with changing the bill from crossover. That crossover is putting in that rule part. That really
yes.
made it. How can we adjust that if without amending? So.
But was there the passage date that was in the rule now? In the bill now?
The bill now has an effective date of July 1st, 2028.
Okay, it does have it.
Yes, so
With the
the pilot
amendments,
project would initiate on that date for a full 3 years, but the intent would be that the rules would be in place and PVL would have the processes needed in place. Because we're not talking, if PVL is involved and we're like following these people and they're going into our database, we also have to build that into our database system. So it's not just the rules and promulgating the rules, it's also creating forms or some way of actually somebody submitting the documents and everything like that. So it's not just, the rulemaking, it's also all those technical and administrative processes that we got to handle as well.
Absolutely. And I've actually helped make some of those forms that are used by other states. So I do have those specific examples, if that would be helpful to
Yes,
you.
absolutely. Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that you have that.
But you can see, Chair, that if they had embedded in the bill
Yes,
the requirements
Right.
in the bill itself, then
Right,
it
but
would have
they-
never meant the rules needed. Yeah.
right. But right now it's not, right?
No, they're not. in.
Correct.
And if there was changes and to add all of that, then I think I heard the public testimony that said that that would be the kiss of death. But
Possibly. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a catch-22.
Yes.
so what would happen if we left it at July 1st, 2028?
If you left the amendments that were recommended by Health Committee last week, the bill would still move forward. And the board would have the 2 years to promulgate rules, and the pilot project would start on July 1st, 2028.
So does that not seem like that would be the most likelihood of helping to facilitate the usage of it then?
Are you asking me? I'm sorry.
I'm just asking everyone.
Does other members, how do you feel about the current state of the bill?
From my position, if we can get this, any way we can help with the situation would be good at getting it passed. And so I would defer to the guys that are watching the bill the most, would probably be Alex, on what we would need to do on our end to help them with that. Would the dates matter, I guess, Alex, or is there anything that the board could do in support?
Well, what I would say is, you need 2 years so you can implement on time. Otherwise, it won't be a 3-year pilot. I think if it comes down to, it's only a 1-year pilot versus you have nothing, you have to weigh that. A short pilot might be better than no pilot at all. I mean, there's not much room to maneuver. Now, you can talk to Senator Kehoe-Lowell and see if he's flexible and if there's a way to, work with this. But this is a pretty narrow window. And the bill's on life support.
I mean, this is quite possibly the furthest the prescriptive authority bill has gotten in the last 5 years.
Last
10
10
years.
years, yeah.
Oh, 10 years, yeah.
10 years.
2016.
Governor Lingo vetoed it about 10 years ago, but this is the
Yes,
furthest it's gotten.
I was there then.
Yeah.
Actually, 10 years ago, we had 1072, which made it to the last vote on the House floor. They moved it to the last item and never called it. So Lingle was maybe 5 years before that. But funny how 5 years becomes 10 years very quickly.
Has HPA spoke with the agency that would be charged with the actual data gathering?
You talking about SHPTA?
Yes, SHPTA.
Yes.
Okay, what have they said about this bill as far as like what they're able to handle? Because I think that's always something that I've not understood, how this kind of gets divided up between them and the board as far as responsibilities. I mean, obviously the board would promulgate rules.
I was
But-
not, yeah, sorry. I was not in the meeting with Dr. Lewin, but what was your question? What did you want to know? What
The board hasn't spoken with SHPTA, so we were just, I think the board should probably, discuss like what the divide on responsibilities is in this bill,
Oh, yeah, I don't know that we discussed that aspect with him.
Okay.
Yeah, you might want to talk to him.
And we're hoping to talk to him again, I think.
Yeah, he's kind of driving this. I mean, if you look at the most recent amendments, a lot of his amendments were adopted, and a lot of the psychiatrists' amendments were adopted.
Okay.
So it's not just your amendment that jeopardizes it. I mean, that's a small part of the amendments that were added. And we have no problem with it. It's just, and I can see, from your point of view, it makes sense. It's just we're trying to keep this, we're trying to get this bill passed in a form that is meaningful. Otherwise, it's not much of a pilot at all. With the current amendments, I don't know that it would even work.
Could I ask the board a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Um, how does the board feel about pilot projects generally? Is there a use for pilot projects generally for the Board of Psychology?
And the way that I see it is that it's more palpable. I mean, it's more acceptable in terms of passing something that might have controversy to it in terms of people's commitment to something that's a pilot study and then seeing what the outcome is before they take the next step. So, I see that as an entry level to supporting the RXP bill. And because I think that whenever it was proposed in the past to have it a lot more comprehensive, let's say to cover all the islands, or even if we just had federally qualified centers, there was a lot of resistance to that. And so I see this as a possible entry level way of entering into. I believe it's needed. I believe that RXP for qualified and trained psychologists would really be of assistance to our community. Position.
Agreed.
Yes.
Dr. Lich, I think you can just speak, yeah.
We would prefer to just go to straight, outright, full prescription privileges. The reason, the pilot is a compromise, not only because it has a better chance of passing the legislature. We've talked with the governor, and he said, if you want to implement RXP, my recommendation to you is to go for some kind of pilot, perhaps the neighbor islands. He said Hawaii probably not ready to accept full RXP. Your best strategy is to go for a pilot. And that's why we had not only, there was a bill, of course, for full prescription privileges. That never got a hearing. So the fallback was this pilot, and it's just been cut and cut and cut into small pieces.
One of the reasons I ask is that the Board of Pharmacy, within its powers and duties, can approve pilot projects related to the practice of pharmacy. This is something that does not exist in 465 for the Board of Psychology. But I was just wondering if there's other instances where pilot projects within the field of psychology, within the practice of psychology, would warrant an authority of the board to create pilot projects.
And you mean not go through the legislature?
For every single type of pilot project that would be related to psychology. So it could be prescriptive authority. There could be something else, like, for example, when the provisional license bill was going through, maybe that would have been an instance where a pilot project be established to test things. But that is an authority that the Board of Pharmacy has that the Board of Psychology, does not. And that's because it's entered in their statutes. Yeah.
So that would be statutory change.
That would be a statutory change. I don't know if it would be related enough to this bill. But maybe we could see how this goes and then figure that out.
Well, that's an idea. We could try a bill to give you guys the authority to do that. I don't know if that would pass or not, but it would be a statutory change, wouldn't it? It's another way to
It's
go.
not-
I think you need specific authority to describe controlled substance too. So just because you have the authority to approve pilot programs, I think that's
Right.
it's a separate. Yeah.
It's a good point.
So in summary, how can we support this bill?
You know, and there's gonna be, it's gonna get called for hearing, so I think it's just contemplating what position you take.
Chris is gonna say at the.
Sorry, I don't know how the board wants to move forward.
It's kind of hard to know how to move without talking to this Senator Keohoko, because I think when it goes to conference committee, it's likely that he'll be heavily involved in driving this. And it's hard to know, if he'd say, okay, 2-year implementation, 28, that's fine, and I can pass that, or he'll just say no. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of
Okay.
in the dark a little bit. All I know is what he said earlier, which is he wants the 26th date, which is extremely early. That's in a couple of months.
Yeah.
And I can see that's problematic for you.
And Judy, you're gonna send in that stuff as soon as possible, and then we can
Yes,
help that formulate our. Thank you.
absolutely. And if there's anything else you need, you'll just let me know.
So
or
is
let us
that,
know.
so is that the instruction from the board to
Contact. Contact, okay.
Okay.
How do you
So
pronounce his
many.
name?
And is my question to him just to ask if the effective date as it allows us to generate rules, okay? That was the question.
Basically. Are they
Yeah.
killing the bill or are we killing the bill if you change that date?
Okay.
That's the
2026, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the main thing from his standpoint, I think. He intentionally put in that active
Okay.
live date. Go ahead, Alex.
Well,
Alex,
well, never mind. I mean, you could try to get it changed in the next hearing, or the conference committee will have to iron it out again.
But Alex, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right that he's pivotal in terms of our ultimate success. If
He's
he
driving this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's working with John Lewin. They're driving this. And it only survived really because of Mayor Kawakami.
So is there any change to the current position for the board? Right now, I believe it's supporting the intent.
Can we say it's stronger than supporting the intent?
Say you support the bill, yeah.
Strongly support the bill. So we would change it from the intent to strongly support the bill. Any
Yeah.
comments from the rest of the board? Yes,
But
Alex?
you could go stronger and say you support the bill that passed out of the Senate, which is very different from the current bill. The current bill really barely, I mean, it's debatable if it even allows psychologists to prescribe. I mean, Judy can speak more about it, but the formulary is so narrow. As a practical matter, I don't know that psychologists would actually be able to prescribe. They would be so limited. They might start out, for example, they could start out with a patient and decide, do the assessment, start them on one medication and say, you know what? I need to switch to another medication. That medication is not in the formulary. I'm going to have to transfer you now to a psychiatrist because I can no longer continue the case, and that would disrupt the continuity of care. So, yeah, we're not real happy with the current version.
Yeah, so
Couldn't you say though that in that process, if the prescribing psychologist in that situation were able to manage it according to those, restrictions, would that still not support prescriptive authority?
Well, Judy
Would
can
that
answer
help?
that better. It'd be
It's
very
next
limited.
to
Yeah.
nothing, but it
It's next to
isn't
nothing.
nothing.
Right.
You know, so I'm thinking about a teenager on Kauai who is suicidal, has suicidal ideation. We would be able to treat him for depression, him or
You
her.
couldn't treat a teenager under this, Judy.
Well, right, exactly.
And
Normally,
if he's
we
17,
would
he may
treat.
turn 18 and you can't treat him. So, yeah.
So, yes, exactly. So our hands would be tied. Now, some of that is going to be what kind of relationship do we establish with the psychiatrist and the other health professionals that might work into the whole integrated care model. But exactly. And so if we're trying to demonstrate that we can reduce the rate of suicide for Kauai, the likelihood is that we will never see any of those patients because they'll be under 18 or they'll be over 65. And we know that, you know, suicide rates are higher for both of those groups. So our hands will be tied. We wouldn't be able to treat psychosis or schizophrenia. And as we know that there's a huge element to that in some of our ethnic groups. And so, you know, it'll be very limited what we're able to demonstrate. But, you know, if at least we be able to demonstrate that we don't kill patients, which is something that we've been accused of doing. You know, so there, you know, double-edged sword that we're dealing with right now. So we would be able to demonstrate something, but is that going to be enough to then say, yes, it's safe and effective? Let's move forward to the other islands.
We'd be able to demonstrate that maybe there was an effectiveness in terms of the suicidal rate and cite because of the limitations and say that it needed to be expanded in order to answer that particular question.
Exactly, yeah. That's our
what we do.
strongest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We go
So-
back and has to say it needs to be expanded.
So, you know, the only other state that has passed a bill that essentially is we're able to treat depression and anxiety is Utah, and they have stalled on finalizing their rules, and so we don't really know how much of a difference that makes. We haven't been able to study that yet. All the other states, even those that have those age restrictions, have a little bit more leeway in terms of medication choices. But at least they've taken out this issue about black box warnings, because when they suggested that 2 or 3 years ago, that basically allowed us to treat anxiety and depression, but we wouldn't be able to prescribe anything because all medications have black box warnings. So, you know, including SSRIs, which are very, you know, generally safe medications. So I feel that much better about the way they limited us in this bill than I did, you know, 2-3 years ago with the other trap. I mean, it really was a trap because we could prescribe aspirin for depression, basically. So.
So as far as I heard Dr. Lewin bring up the suggestion of Licton, sorry. Licton, about supporting the bill prior to crossover, which would not include the things that are kind of being problematic now. So the board could do that.
But then we wouldn't be supported that is not that's not being heard, though.
Well, the
But
bill
you can
got,
ask for amendments.
yeah, we could. So for example, I could go there to ask an amendment on behalf of the board that requests that the bill version, like whatever it was, SD1, be the
SD2.
preferred vehicle because it got modified in health.
HD2, yeah. Or
So-
SB.
SD2.
Right. So you could do that.
How does it help the current status of what's
Well,
going
the
on?
major issue is that we have a catch-22. You guys need time for the rules. administratively, it's not something that like can just be worked away. But the effective date's pushed out 2 years because of that, so that you get the full 3 years for the pilot project. So the major issue is if you take out the effective date and make it effective immediately, then you're gonna take 2 year, you're gonna have like a 1 year pilot project.
Right, right.
I guess
Right.
Licton had said that that's better than nothing, but not totally conducive to the purpose, right? So that's kind of where you're at.
So we have to make a choice either or.
Well, you could see if
Or you could
Senator,
ask if you want the
yeah, you
other
could talk to
vote.
the senator.
Kind of
and
have
see
three
if-
choices.
Yeah.
Or four, maybe.
Okay, so go over the three choices.
Sure. So the first one is a kind of either or. Either you keep the effective date the same and everything just moving forward,
And the effective date is,
or you revert back to the previous version that has the effective date immediately, but nothing will get started until those rules are promulgated.
Right.
So if that takes 2 years, then that means a 1 year pilot project. The third option would be to request the version that was last left before it crossed over, which doesn't include this information.
Now, keep in mind, we can go back next year and try to get it changed. We just
Well,
need something to pass now,
we have to get as far as we can with this bill in whatever form it's going to be.
okay, so out of those three options, then which one would get it advanced furthest?
If we kept SD2, that came from Kehokolole, that has the greatest chance of passing this year. Now, that does give you that 2026, July 1st start
It's a
date.
1 year pilot, essentially.
We just have to change our expectations of what kind of
Unless the
data you
senator
can
will
elect.
tell you that's okay and he'll
You're
support that.
essentially contradicting your testimony you offered this past one too.
Yeah.
By saying.
It does.
28, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you want to consider that.
I mean, it would have to be something like along the lines of after discussing this at the board's meeting with HPA. That,
But that would really, I mean, if it's impossible to do 2026, then I don't see how,
without rules, no. I mean, it won't be.
so it's not doable.
You just tell them this is essentially a 1 year pilot.
Yeah, you just, basically what we're saying is, or what's being asked is that even though the pilot project's 3 years, whatever time it takes to make the rules and the administrative processes in order to register someone with PVL on the board, what's left, the remainder, that's it. That's it for the pilot project. What, if you can take that, like, I don't know what that would look like for the legislature if, like, the idea of a pilot project is the total 3 years. And you go back to the legislature with like 1 year, of data, and they look at that and they say, is this a successful pilot project as it was designed? I mean, obviously, it's not gonna be the full 3 years. Is that a ding
2020,
against it? Will that not be able to prove, like, really the idea is that these pilot projects lead to some kind of statutory changes to answer unanswerable questions unless it's in praxis, right?
Right.
So, I don't know, like, even if after a pilot project's supposed to be 3 down to 1, will the legislature take that as guidance?
Well, 2026 was not your idea. It was not our idea. That was Senator Kehokololi's idea. So, yeah,
I think it said something like effective immediately or something like that originally, right?
Judy would know. Wasn't it
Date.
27?
We've had various versions. It was 2026 and 2027 we recommended, but he decided on the 2026 so that we would have a real date in there.
Like they want to
And I think that that's a really important question to come from the board to him. What was he envisioning with that limited time, with the requirements that we have to promulgate the rules, et cetera. So I think that is really the biggest question to him. If he would allow us to have 3 years from whenever the rules are done, right? That might be the best thing that we could get. So we would leave the 2026 in, just so that we have that date, and which he wanted. And then if we take a year and a half, 2 years to do all the rule work, then from there it would be 3 years. If there's any way to interpret it that way, that would be the best of all worlds, right?
Right. Okay, so you're saying it was at 2026, but then it would be 2 more years in terms of for the promulgation of the rules. And so it actually, the pilot study wouldn't start till 2028 for 3 years. Right?
If that was possible.
Okay.
If he's good with that,
Seems most logical. Yeah.
then we'll stay, and continue it on that way. Listen, and
Yes.
I think if we have 1
Yes,
year,
hold up. Yeah.
if we have 1 year to do study, we'll do it, but what we measure is going to be very different, right? So
I'm sure the logic of the 3-year pilot should be with it in effect, and then 3 years from
Yes.
that. So I think that's the whole thing. It's silly other than that.
I'm not sure if he understood about how long it took for the rules.
Can we get that clarified, and that will base our,
What should be clarified?
if he's flexible, the 3 years from the start of the rules, not from the date.
Okay. Okay.
Now, that
Start.
26 was a legislative mechanism to try to avoid conference committee.
Right.
That's
Okay.
the only sense it made. It didn't make sense from, your point of view.
Just keep the start date. It's just the pilot won't start until, yeah.
Until the
Yeah.
rules are. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, do you guys want to take a motion and vote on that, please?
Okay, can someone put it in words about this motion?
I think you just would need to say, motion to strongly support the bill. Requesting Fernandez reach out to Senator Ke'oho Kolole about the start date. And second, I think then lastly would be that to the board, for the board to support the bill to, and after discussion with HPA, either it will affect issue to July 1st, 2026.
Okay.
With the pilot, with the pilot start date of the date of the rules, not the July 1st.
Oh, at the completion of the rules.
That's how we can start collecting data. 3 years of that.
I think that'd be difficult because you set a definite date. But I mean, I think what you guys have proposed addresses that, right? To an extent, right?
I guess maybe, well, and then I guess effective immediately upon passage.
What effect?
And then we gotta hustle.
Pilot study.
Well, I thought the pilot would start after the rulemaking, isn't it?
That's what we have to find out.
Isn't that what it's currently, isn't that what the testimony was in this most recent, right?
So
It's like you set it effective in 2 years
Mhm.
after, just to give the board time for rulemaking, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
So I think what they're saying is, in order for the bill.
sorry, I guess, right?
Go ahead.
Well, we have rulemaking.
So just to be clear, you're saying that, so the bill, when it came over into health, had an effective date of July 1st, 2026. That was Ke'oho Kolole's version. You're saying not to put it back to July 1st, 2026, which they said would have been the version to have the best chance. So I'm saying that's the version you wanted, right? Which would be July 1st, 2026. Effective date.
I thought that you were gonna contact him to ask about the 2026. And for that to be the start date, but with the understanding that the rules would take 2 years. And that the pilot study would be initiated at the start of, the rules. I'm gonna clarify that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. But that would mean
Right.
you guys are supporting the version that Ke'ololo put out. Yes.
Right.
So that would mean that in the testimony, you need to make clear the reason why the board had changed the effective date 2 years, but now is asking to revert back to the version that came over from Senator Ke'ololo.
But you would talk with him.
Yes,
about
I
it,
think,
right?
yeah. So if he says, I don't care about the start date, and I'll keep supporting it regardless, do we keep it 2 years? Or do you want it to still be the date that he set in his bill version?
I mean, if but I thought he was the person that was strongly saying that 2026.
Okay, so I'm just saying okay, all right.
But so you're gonna ask him.
We would just let him know that we would have to promulgate the rules within that 3 years, so it would eat into the actual total pilot time, but the board's gonna actually, after discussing with HPA, will revert back to the effective date of July 1st, 2026. Okay.
And Judy, you're gonna get that stuff in.
As soon as we get off, and I'm looking things up right now. So yes, I get that to
Can I
you
get a
as
motion
soon as
just
I
to
can.
strongly support the bill?
Okay, so I want to make a motion to strongly support the bill, followed by what our EO has said he would do in terms of the follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
When
think
you say the bill, are you talking about SD2 or HD1?
I'm talking about the one that Ke'ololo
Yeah, you
created.
strongly support SD2.
Yeah.
SD2, okay.
That's our position. Thank you.
Okay,
Second.
yeah, okay. Any opposition or abstention to this motion? And it is passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate
Mahalo.
the dialogue today.
We both do.
Thank you for taking the time to join us.
I think I'll stick around if you're going to talk about the school psychologist bill too.
Okay, sure.
I'm going to get going to get that material to you. So
Okay.
mahalo.
Bye, Dr. Simon.
Aloha.
We are now past the prescriptive authority bills relating to psychologists, and we are going to move on to school psychologist bill. And could you give us the status on that?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so school psychologist bills. HB 624, HB 1889, and HB 625. I was just trying to check on HB 625 because I believe this is just a bill for tracking. Because it doesn't involve your chapter. But I just wanted to get this info out real quick, just in case. Yeah, so this is dead anyways, did not get referred to committee. So HB 625 is dead.
HB 625.
Yes, sorry, that's letter,
Yeah.
yeah. And then in HB 624,
Yes.
this was the bill, I think, from last year. The carried over bill for the working group. This is dead. It is not going. So the vehicle this year for the school psychology working group is HB 1889. So the bill has crossed over. It was heard last week in the Senate's Education Committee. Chair Kim deferred decision making to today, I believe at 1:30. So we'll hear more before it gets referred to its next committee, which I believe is WAM. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so it'll go to WAM next. Okay, so I mean, basically, this bill has gone the way most school psychology bills go every year in the legislature. We have two associations basically discussing the matter at the hearings. Wouldn't say they're on the same page, not necessarily, I don't want to say oppositional, but it's kind of indicative of the situation, The board's testimony has kind of always stayed on course, which is that the board has supported the regulation of school psychologists, just not under 465. Pretty much every bill that has gone out into the legislature since, let's say, 2016, has placed them within Chapter 465, for psychologists. So while the board opposes them going into 465, it's not opposed to regulation. And this has always been basically the only position the board has taken for years. When the working group was created last year, this was after a meeting with the board of psychology and school psychology advocates and some legislators and the DCCA. We all agreed to support some form of way of regulation, so that led to the working group bill, which unfortunately did not make it through last year. Crossed over. They didn't choose HB 624 to carry it on. They decided to establish the new HB 1889. And so far, it has remained unchanged, I believe. The board's testimony, at least 2 hearings ago, had requested that if the intention was to place school psychologists, and I'm referring to school psychologists at the specialist level, in 465, then the board would recommend that psychologists have some representation on the working group as well, since they have a vested interest in the functioning of 465. So far, those amendments have not been taken within the House's CPC committee and also probably maybe the Senate Education Committee too. In my mind, when you ask the legislature if their intention is to place something in something, like say to place in 465 and to add the association support, but the legislature does not, that could indicate that they don't intend to put them in 465, right? But that's not explicitly stated. So I don't know if
Where would they place them if it wasn't in 465?
the board has always stayed out of that.
Oh.
And for good cause. The board's really only focused on 465, right?
Right.
So I will say that legislative history shows that around 2016, there was a bill introduced that was amended to create a program for them. But I haven't seen any bills that do that since. So as you recall, social workers, marriage and family therapists, mental health counselors, all are regulated in the state, but through programs, not with a. And obviously every year, there's always suggestion of credentialing through the DOE. They have their own complications in order to make that happen,
Right.
So yeah, let's see. At the hearing, I was asked a lot of questions. They were asking about the fees, the total fee amount. For psychologists for your licenses. I think it's in like the 200, 300 range, and the renewals are about the same, yeah. So I was giving them that information. They had asked if there was a school psychology program in Hawaii. And I think at that time I said to my knowledge that there was not. Not HPA, sorry. The school psychology advocate noted that Chaminade has a school psychology program, but when I'm looking at it, it's a educational specialist degree, and you can have an emphasis on school psychology. Is that correct?
Jeff knows more about it, but
Okay.
I don't know if they started yet anyway, so.
I'm not sure, and I'm not even sure what their contact with NASP is with regard to the publication status, and language fee or anything. I don't, it's not being sure. It seems to me from the website, it's a program that's designed to try and capture NASP standards, but not been approved by NASP itself. That's kind of the more nuanced information. Another thing that I really tried to clarify in the hearing that I haven't ever really been able to do on behalf of the board is the difference between when in the committees they're talking about school psychology, not as just one level of school psychology practice, but actually two separate levels of school psychology practice, right? Because when you go into a hearing for the school psychology bills, what you'll hear is that school psychologists are not regulated in Hawaii. But this is untrue. Because you can be a school psychologist with a doctoral degree and be licensed by this board. If you do not have the foresight to know that you need additional training for internship and things like that, that's really the biggest crux. And also prepare for the EPPP. I'm not sure if they also take the EPPP. Then you would not probably be able to be ready for licensure here. However, you can be licensed. So what they're referring to when they say school psychology isn't regulated here is the like specialist level degree, which is like the majority of most school psychology practitioners, right? So that nuance is never really teased out for the legislators in the hearing. They just hear school psychologists, right? Another thing is how we look at each state and how they regulate school psychology. For example, at one of the last hearings, they brought up California. And the argument was that California licenses school psychologists. And the board in California licenses school psychology. Well, this is again kind of generalized information, right? Because the Board of Psychology, similar to the Board of Psychology here in Hawaii, does license those who meet the requirements for a psychologist degree. You have a school psychology doctorate. School psychology specialists are licensed by the Board of Behavioral Sciences. This is the board that licenses marriage and family therapists, social workers, mental health counselors, and actually the license in California, as far as I could see from the California website, is actually a license in educational psychology. But those with training in school psychology can obtain that license. So it's not even designed for school psychology proper, but it's being modified or has been modified for their purposes so that they can be licensed in California.
But not as a licensed psychologist to
No.
independently practice.
And across the board, I'm seeing that, like, for example, another state that gets referred to a lot with regard to licensure for school psychologists is Texas. So that board does license both tiers of psychologists. So the school psychology specialist and the school psychology doctoral, right? Well, when you look at their board makeup, most of the bills that have been passed through the legislature here in Hawaii usually modify the board makeup. So we have 7 members, right? 2 members are public. That means 5 membership is for licensed individuals, right? Some bills take away 2 and replace them with school psychologists. So you would have 3 psychology members and 2 school psychologists. Some of them add 2 more, making a total 9 board, right? But they always have 2 reps in Texas, who has licensure of school psychologists at two different tiers has one member on their board, and this member is both licensed as a psychologist and licensed as a school psychology specialist. And that board position is designed specifically for somebody who has dual degrees. So they limit the school psychology within the board itself. School psychology specialists are not using the term school psychologist, they're using like school psychology specialist or professional. So again, those educational specialist degree level folks are not using the term psychologist or school psychologist, maybe. I would have to look further to see what terms they can use, like in practice. Like they could maybe call themselves school psychologists to someone, but their license is for a school psychology specialist or a professional, or whichever the term is. But I just wanted to add those into the record because these are regularly kind of kick the can down the road for these conversations. And usually they add the testimony of the board into the list before the advocates. So I have a harder time responding to what's said to try and clarify for the legislature, you know, the crux of these issues. But I felt like with Senator Kim's hearing, we were able to kind of get that info a little.
Alex, had you wanted to be part of the discussion for the school psychologist? I didn't know if you had comments also that you wanted to make.
Well, yeah, just our position has been that we'd like to be added to the working group. Previous versions of a
Right.
bill to establish a working group did include us. We're
Right.
left out this time. And
Yes.
again, we have a lot of concerns which we would express if we're in that working group. There's a lot of issues here.
Oh, sorry. We have to go into recess.
Motion to go into recess.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
We lost quorum.
So go to the back.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Remember, if we lose it, okay, go ahead, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, we're back out of recess and we'll resume the discussion that we're having on school psychologists legislation.
Was there any change to, I mean, currently the bill is still the way it is. Do you guys still want to do the same request for amendment and
Right, the same amendments that we had requested that there be a psychologist, like.
Right. Well, I was gonna say that, kind of alluding to, okay, the board already requested that if the intention is to place school psychologist specialists into 465, that an HPA representative be included on it. So it's a conditional statement, right?
Yes.
You could also add in there to make it explicit, just if the board's intention is, or if the legislature's intention is not to place 465, then to make that expressly explicit. So to placement, to find, so they would amend the bill's language to but it's referring to immediate placement excluding 465. So you could do that as well. So you could add to your amendment, but just remember that if it does pass through the Senate Education, it's going to just be going to Ways and Means. I'm not sure they do much with the substantive content, but you can always request if you wish. So it's on record.
Can we just reiterate what we had said before?
Yeah, you can.
You need a motion for that, or is there just?
No, if you have no changes to your position.
Can I just ask a question? The school psychologists maintain that psychology is adequately represented by the Board of Psychologists, and it's redundant for HPA to have a member. My counter to that is, first of all, they have double representation because in the working group would consist both the national and the local organization of school psychologists would have seats on the working group. And also, I'd argue that our mission is a little bit different from your mission. You know, we are separate entities. Do you have anything to add to that? You know, I'm just trying to build the rationale why we should be in the working group. Is there any more you can say? Yeah, why, why
Yeah,
your
Dr.
mission is different from ours? Yeah.
Dr. Lichten, you've been in the hearings, along with
Yeah.
me. Would your interpretation of that, what you were just saying from school psychologists, because I keep hearing what they're saying is that their own licensure doesn't involve another profession, which I think probably everyone in the meeting agrees with, right? However, they did bring in the Board of Psychology into this working group, right? So then it kind of feels contradictory to say that, because psychologists are only licensed under 465 and the Board of Psychology. So
I'm
it's-
not. Yeah.
yeah, it just seems to me that they're trying to basically state that if they were just to be talking with those who have the authority about licensure, that really wouldn't include the Board of Psychology if there was no intention to put them in 465, right?
They want to be under 465.
Right. So I think
They've
that
made that clear, and they've made that clear.
And we're clear.
They're not open to anything else.
yeah.
If that's the case, yes, then we want to have.
I'm not sure I understand their position. They say, that we're basically their psychologists and we're part of the same profession. And then they also say it's ridiculous for us to be included. It would be like adding social workers or marriage and family or other disciplines because we're completely different. So it seems they do contradict themselves, and I find
I
much
mean,
testimony
that's my
misleading.
take in listening to the testimony and having been in this conversation on behalf of the board for like 8 years or whatever it's been, is that the argument to go into 465 is that school psychology represents the practice of psychology. However, when you look at every single bill that has gone into the legislature, they have defined their own scope. So the practice of school psychology. This is separate than the practice of psychology. And they maintain both arguments. So they
Yes.
argue that school psychology is psychology, therefore they belong in 465. However, they want to define their own definition of the practice, right? So by that own admission, it seems like they're two separate professions. And
That would be worth pointing out.
yeah, and I would say
Yeah.
also that if you look at the practice chapters of MHC, so mental health counselors, marriage and family therapists, social workers, if you look at their definitions of the practice of social work or practice of marriage and family therapy, it's a detailed description of what, of what you do, right? I mean, the practice of psychology definition is pretty big. There's a lot of detail in there. Every bill that has been introduced for the licensure of school psychologists only refers to the national standards, or the national standards, right? The standards set by the National Association of School Psychologists. It doesn't detail out what they do. It just refers to a place. And I think that's what's been getting them in this issue for a long time, because several years ago, a sunrise analysis was requested. The state auditor's office reported back stating they could not complete the sunrise analysis because there was not a definition of the practice. And they requested a definition of the practice in order to continue their analysis. That all just went away, though. They just stopped doing that.
Why don't they do that?
I think that's the purpose of this working group.
Right.
Is to make a definition, to discuss the definitions, for example, things like that would lead to immediate licensure, right? So that's the major contention, I think, with these issues, is that not on the same page. Pretty much every single committee hearing gets confusing. And what you're ended up with is the same place the board has been for like years, which is standing firm in the same position, and then the other side, the same place. And to me, that's just indicative of not a good situation. But I mean, that's 8 years of the same thing.
So
Yeah.
let's stand by the testimony we submitted,
Okay.
okay? All right, any more discussion before we move on?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me provide that additional information.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I really appreciate the discussion. Again, I think I'll leave the meeting.
Okay,
Appreciate your time.
okay. Thank you for.
Since there's no change to your vote,
Okay.
I think you can just keep it.
Okay, move on to licensure.
Okay. So these, I believe, are all tracking. So I believe the SB 2011, SB 1635, I think these bills have died.
Okay.
Yeah, so HB 625 dead.
1635, you mean? 1635 and 201.
The first one, oh, sorry, E on that page is dead. Q is dead.
What about R?
2011 is dead.
S?
Sorry. SB 474 is dead.
Then we go to related to psychology, the T.
This is dead as well. They're all dead, I think. Yeah, I think so. So yeah, all the way through X. Oh, but I did add HB 1857 to this because I believe one of the members was interested in the discussion that had happened at the legislature with regard to that.
Okay.
So HB 1857 was a bill that established a broad definition of qualified healthcare provider in numerous areas of existing law. It clarifies and standardizes references to specific healthcare providers, updates outdated language to reflect correct terminology, makes numerous clarifying and conforming amendments to support these changes, including but not limited to chapters related to health, education, insurance, professions, and vocations, the Paying Patients Bill of Rights, the Uniform Probate Code, Minors and Child Protective Act, and the Penal Code. But basically, it just revamps trying to use this term qualified healthcare provider in circumstances that can allow that very general term. I'll just go through it was scheduled by the health. And it was amended. However, it was never heard by the CPC committee. So in the committee report, they created a defective date and they made some technical non-substantive amendments to it. So there's not a lot of information about why the bill was not picked up by CPC. I think the conversations had difficulty addressing, I think, maybe the scope of that term with regard to every single one of those areas that it was affecting. I'm sorry about the kind of general description of the bill, but it didn't get heard a lot. So I don't have a lot of information as to why it didn't move forward. But that would be it.
Okay, thanks for letting us know. We can move on to the next agenda item, which is your report on the application process update, current temporary permit process, and provisional license update.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Okay, so application processing update. I believe, Chair, you asked for an update on applications. This again was probably a year of delays on applications for various reasons. If you recall, we're about to lose quorum last year. I think like around June or so. We ended up picking up members. So we had to cancel, I think, an April meeting and a May meeting due to quorum. We were under quorum as the board. Then we had, I think our next meeting was like August or something like that. And this all was due to workloads and levels like that. So we did in fact see a little bit of delay for applicants. However, it's still within the normal range of application processing. But, other factors that don't involve this office can also extend application processes. So if, for example, somebody is going to use documents from another state for their license, from a state that they actually obtain licensure in, when we receive the documents, if it doesn't actually have what we need, then we would still need to send a deficiency, and then that kind of extends everything out. It can be same for the verification documents. If the date ranges are not correct compared to like the transcript date for the graduation, then we may either need additional documents or they may need to rework their documents again, and that can extend things out. And if they don't get that notice about that information, really quick right after we receive their app and it's been reviewed initially, then that again adds more time within that whole process. The majority of the applications that we're receiving though for psychology seems to be national register. We're We're getting a lot of National Register folks. We've actually seen a decrease in examination waiver in my mind. It's not as high as in like maybe 4 years ago. But we are currently up to date on all applications coming into this new year. So everything coming before the board should be brand new applicant ready to be reviewed, or an applicant who had a deficiency that has been corrected. So we should be up to date now.
But the delays or the issues from before with the quorum and the load and everything, that should be taken care of.
Yes, yes.
From now on, we're gonna be as possible, okay,
Yes.
as possible. Okay, thank you. That's a good update.
Could you give it, a date? Because people can contact people, members of the board and say, how long is it, quotes, normal? If the application has been submitted for it to be completed and heard by the board. So just giving a range, because I've had people contact me because of problematic kinds of things that have come up. And we can talk about one in particular, later, in which it started in August 25. And so 5 or 6 months to me is not really acceptable.
Okay.
So what is an acceptable range when we're contacted to say, hold on, you only contacted them for 1 month, they need 2 months?
So
I don't think the board, like, unless, something codified by rule or law, like to say that this was the.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say that licensing branch themselves have, and this is regularly established by their correspondence with applicants. They'll let them know to please allow 40 to 60 days for initial processing.
60 days. So if it exceeded 60 days, business
Then
days,
so they can reach out to the
business
board.
days, so that would be 3 months then.
So, and then another update that I think we haven't made at this board meeting or with this board is that the PVL now has a service system. So when you call the board, you're going to a phone service. If they can answer your question based on their canned responses, then that's where they would go. So direct connection with myself and the board is actually limited now. And you would have to request a message when we return call. So
So they would leave a message with that.
yes, and then they send us a task to recall them back. So email is actually the more direct connection to the board. And if people leave their callback number, then that gives us the ability to just avoid the tasking system for the phone service and just do that.
I'm trying to problem solve the cases that fall between the cracks,
Right.
For for the psychologist that's applying, as well as I always think that if we can do better and if there are, problems along the way, then that's our job to take a look at it.
I will take you guys's requests and we will employ them. Apologies to everybody who's been affected. It's just been a very tumultuous time and we're getting back on track.
Yeah, if you can extend that to and whatnot, that's helpful. Because we're looking at, everybody's saying, oh, there's shortage of psychologist stuff, and we're sitting, sometimes, well, not anymore, hopefully, but a bunch of psychologists that can be licensed and.
All right, so current temporary permit process. So as you know, the compact bills come in through every year. And one of the things that the board offered to the legislature this year was that there's been no change to the temporary permit process in all the years that the compacts have. So current temporary permit process right now, as it stands for this board, basically requires you to submit an application for like examination waiver. The way the law is written, it shows that you have to basically meet the requirements of licensure. And the way you do that is through how you apply for license. So that means somebody who's just going to be practicing for like 2 weeks, following their patient here on vacation will have to do a whole lot, an internship and all that stuff, just to see them for 2 weeks. This is something that possibly the board could look at, as far as making it more conducive to like temporary practice for the state, while maintaining its authorities. So instead of relinquishing all of it over, or not all of it, but you know what I mean, I'm being dramatic, but for the compact, then it could be more of how do we make it better for psychologists who don't necessarily want to be here all the time, but need to follow patients here and more times than not are
I'd be
concerned.
happy to help with that, and I can go look at other states and see. what kind of temporary things
Or
they have.
sometimes it's forensic,
Exactly.
evaluations or
Yes.
testifying in court.
And that's another thing exactly that I would bring up related to this is that temporary permits kind of follow the same thing as these exemptions for state workers. So like right now, currently your chapter has an exemption for those hired by the state. And you can practice for 2 years in order to obtain licensure. And after that, then you have to vacate your position. There's been bills in recent years that have tried to update that to like 5 years or even more. And the board has always tried to drop it back down to 2, maybe add another year to 3 years, because the concern is the unlicensed part, right? Practice. Obviously, it seems to me from the hearings that the forensic folks need some help some way. And so I don't know if the board has anything to provide them as far as like changing exemptions or something like that for those who are doing that work. So it makes it easier for them to hire folks more long-term.
Right now, the way that they can apply for temporary or a waiver is, how long are they given?
90 days.
90 days, and it doesn't have to be consecutive. It could be 90 days within.
No, we typically, in order for us to track them, get to 90 days total.
90 days total, not
Consecutive.
consecutive.
Yeah, calendar days.
Consecutive is different from 90 days within a year.
Right, we keep it together. So you're approved for 90 days. I mean, the board typically approves for a period that is requested by the person.
California used to be that it was granted 30 days for the calendar year.
Session.
And then they just changed it this January, in which it has to be consecutive. Doesn't really help. So if students go to California and the treating psychologist is in Hawaii, that means you can only treat them for a month instead of let's say, every other week for the year. So they just changed that. I'm not sure. I mean, their comments about it going backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
A place like Texas, you end up, when I paid $90, I think, 110 every year I have to apply. And then you're given 12 days. Or is it more than that, 30 days? I don't know, in the year, but then you have to report back and you have to check the exact dates that were used.
Is that okay if I bring something for the next meeting?
Yeah. Would you guys want this to be turned into an agenda item, Chair?
Yeah, to discuss it.
Okay, great. And if you don't mind, we can get Jordan in on that, because he's also, you've heard, right?
Need to look at it, or, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good faith too, because we said we'd look into it.
Yeah.
And we're on the date, so.
Okay, and then the last thing is an update from our office with regard to the provisional license. So right now, they are currently building out the mental health counselor and MFT sections of the provisional license bill. I am actually going to be meeting with the project lead tomorrow for the psychologist's part. And the intention is for them to be complete with our psychologist section, I believe by May. Right now, what they need to do is build the provisional license into the database. So that's the computer technical stuff. And the lead is meeting with me about the applications tomorrow. So we're basically going to be trying to
Moving
use.
along.
Yes, so we're pretty much going to be trying to use the same documents for exam waiver. Just cutting it off at graduation. So internship verification would still be there. Obviously you don't need the exam, so it really just be the doctoral degree and the internship verification. So once we get that, we can start discussing the fees. And then that'll just be the final, I think, bit, and we should be ready to just start receiving applications July 1st, 2026. On time. I'm not sure about the designation yet, like what we're gonna name the license. If it's gonna be like PP, PSY or something like that. So that'll be another update before July 1st. I'll come back with everything. So that might be the June meeting.
Thank you for all of those updates. Yes. I'm glad that.
Yeah.
Okay. Were there any comments that our members remotely want to make on those reports?
I do not have any additional testimony at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 5, question for the board. So is there any testimony in regards to agenda number 5?
I do not have any public testimony at this time, Chair.
Okay, so I wanted to open it to discussion then.
I don't really see what, this is something that they clear up with the VA, right? This isn't.
I'm not sure why it came to the
You
board.
know, this rule isn't our implement, I mean, isn't our rule, it's the VA's rule.
I think, yeah, when I spoke with Dr. Coe, I think she was aware that she was working within the federal system. But she was just wondering, I think, from our 465, if there was any kind of parameters to anything like that, so.
I'm aware of whether we specifically say anything about recording of sessions
The consent of the,
or consent.
yeah, so they're doing it without consent, they said?
Is it something the psychologist can actually give?
I mean, doesn't it sound like the way I saw it, read it was that in her, I guess in her circumstances, it's the patients who are recording it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, yeah, I agree with what you guys are suggesting, that it sounds like she's asking about federal regulations and how our board would have, I mean, it's not within our purview. I would just note maybe that we have a rule about, certain, I think certain conduct that is infamous, but I think it's 1698-34 on unethical practice of psychology, which maybe perhaps she should rule if she feels like. I mean, I don't think we have anything that speaks on recording patients, especially when it's the patient who is, yeah.
Their position.
Okay, so would you like to, number one, would you like to provide a response to Dr. Coe?
A response, yeah, a response can, well, did you already inform her that it was going to be on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, then we should respond, right, if it's on the agenda.
I mean, you can, yes. Okay, I'm just making sure.
Okay.
Step by step.
What did you say that it wouldn't be?
Yeah, I don't think, and to the extent that she's asking the board to contemplate or opine on federal regulations, we can't because it's not within our purview. And I think maybe just like if she wants. I mean, I don't know if it's specific, it's not applicable to her situation, but it's like, oh, we have rules on unethical practice. Like that we govern and you're trying to be different forms and to the extent that. So it says HAR 16-98-34. I don't think it speaks specifically to what she's asking, but that's like, that's the rule of ethical practice or unethical practice that we have that she wants to refer to our ability.
Yes, because it's open session. Yeah, that's better. We have a specific needs. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to, it's suggested that we contact Dr. Cote and let her know that the board did discuss her request, hers.
Okay.
Okay, request. And the board did not think that because she's referring to a federal Veterans Affairs system that we cannot comment on that. We don't.
Or maybe just it's not
in our
within,
purview.
yeah, or.
It's not within our purview. And do we offer the other part about HR?
I don't think that's, I think you can just refer her to our rules and laws if she has questions about it.
Okay.
Right. And we usually, when we get responses like this, we usually inform them that this is an informal opinion or an
Yeah,
informal.
I mean, I guess, yeah, you can include it, and then if you want, Chris, you can, or, Christopher, sorry, you can send it to me before if you
Okay.
want. Just another pair of eyes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that something they need to vote?
I don't think you need to vote on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Carrie, Stephen, do you have any comments on this agenda item?
No, I
Okay.
agree with the direction.
Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead with what we just said.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So we really did not go into executive session to discuss it.
No, it's just there.
They're just in case if they.
Yeah.
Okay, we are moving along now to agenda item 6 for the applications. So I need to make a motion for us to go into executive session.
Maybe you just ask, it's public comment.
Oh, is there any public comment?
I do not have any public testimony at this time, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will move that we move into executive session to discuss the applicants. Can I have a second, please? So looking at a ratification of approved applications.
Did you take a vote?
Oh, okay. Can we take a vote? Are there any objections or abstentions to the vote? Going to executive session to look at applicants? Hearing none, the motion carries. You let me know when you're ready. Okay. In regards to the applications, can I have a motion for ratification of approved applications for those listed? Didn't need to give the names? Okay,
Nate, I motion.
okay. Can I have a second, please?
A second.
Okay. Okay, we are moving on.
Objections or abstentions?
Oh, are there any objections or abstentions to the motion to approve the, for ratification of the approved applications?
No.
Okay, then that is passed. Okay, under applications for review, can I have a motion to defer Alyssa Handel and Lauren Aruno? Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay. Any opposition or abstention to the motion? And hearing none, that's approved. The last person is for Taylor Stacy. Can I have a motion to approve her application for review? Can I have a second?
Second. I'll
Okay,
second the
any
motion.
opposition or abstention to the motion? Okay. Hearing none, that is also approved.
Congratulations, Dr. Stacy.
Okay, so having completed the agenda items for today's meeting, we are now adjourned, and the next meeting will be on Friday, April 10th, 2026.
Thank you.